be afraid. Be very afraid. Be very, 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 very afraid. It's showtime.
Hello, and welcome to Video Scaries, a series where we look at the various bits and pieces of video that scared us senseless as kids. We will see if they can still scare us now, all these years later. And for this episode, we're taking a look at something that can kill any of us in a matter of minutes, and that's fire. We're going to look at some public information films, some old, some new, that focus on the threat of fire, what we can or should do to stop it, and also the consequences if we aren't prepared. So put on your fire gear, and let's get into it.
Once upon a time, there was a dolly called Matilda. She was afraid of the dark. So the grown-ups put a nightlight in the bedroom. One night, Matilda thought she could smell something funny. It all happened so quickly. "Help! Help!" cried Matilda. Sadly, this is where the story ends.
Creepy burning dolls. Yeah, okay, why not? It's easy to see why this one would have scared people. I remember seeing it when I was younger and it giving me some nightmare fuel. Now, people find these kinds of dolls creepy in general, but to see it catch a light and burn to a crisp right in front of our faces, well, that takes it to the next level of creepy. On the other hand though, I do find it quite somber to watch now as an adult. The music is quite heart-wrenchingly sad, and the narrator does a perfect job of emulating what it would be like for a small child to go through this horrific incident. The cries of help in particular, just as the doll is burning, it makes for quite a hard watch now in my opinion, especially if anyone watching has young children. It also ends quite abruptly, but I like that it doesn't drag it all out and it is straight to the point in that respect. Candles aren't often the subject of fire public information films, but it's good to see that this one does address it, even if it's in some creepy but also very emotional ways. Let's move on to our next film of the day.
You'd think you'd wake in a house fire, wouldn't you? But just 2 to 3 breaths of toxic smoke and you're unconscious. Your lungs fill up, just like drowning. Don't drown in toxic smoke. Test your smoke alarm weekly.
Now this one is quite interesting. The main focus visually is we see this couple in bed drowning, so to speak. We hear a narrator explain what the smoke from fire can do to us and our bodies, with sincere music to accompany it. Suddenly in the last few seconds we snap to this couple's reality, that the smoke has completely filled their room and most likely led them to a fiery end. But overall, this one takes a more serious and in some ways relaxed approach into explaining what fire can do. That is, right up until the last few seconds when the true horror is revealed. Moving on, let's go for film number 3.
Nancy? Jimmy?
Please keep matches away from children.
Okay, this one is scary. I remember seeing this in school when I was quite young, and man did this thing leave an impression. The way we see this camera shakily pan around a charred and burnt out house is creepy enough. It reminds me of several found footage horror movies, and the addition of the ghostly echoey voices and sharp turns of the camera only emphasise this feeling more, and honestly, still gives me a few chills here and there. And another thing I like is that we aren't specifically told what caused this fire until the very end of the clip. It's implied that the house was set on fire because the children, who we hear the voices of, were playing around with matches. I think it's brilliantly structured as an informational film, to allow the audience to see the devastation straight away, to hear the voices and terror and the panic that must have ensued, and then to find out what ultimately started it all. Very well paced and shot, one that should still be shown, even if it comes with nightmare. Alright then, let's go on to film number 4.
Mary lived here. Mary was born during the war. Went to a good school and on to university. She liked swimming, dancing. She was going to be married in the summer. Last night, Mary went to bed and left the fire unguarded, and she died in the blaze that followed. Tonight, before you go to bed, fire guard your home. Settle and guard open fires. Make sure cigarettes are out and empty ashtrays into a safe container. Switch off electrical appliances and unplug at the sockets. Close all doors. Don't make the same mistake as Mary. Fire is a nightmare.
This one I think is scary in a different kind of way. For this we actually get a fleshed out backstory of the victim in the film. We learn of Mary's life, how she was due to be married before tragically dying at the hands of an unguarded fire. It's clever writing, to be honest, and it's different from the others so far we've looked at, as it takes the time to list some bullet points on what to do before setting down to sleep at night. I don't think there's anything wrong with doing this, but it does slow the pace down slightly, and you won't often see this in modern fire public information films. Ultimately, I think the final tagline is one of the most chilling.
Don't make the same mistake as Mary. Fire is a nightmare.
It's not the scariest by today's standards, but it's made with detail and shown to make us feel sorry, but also wary of our actions, so we don't wind up with the same fate as Mary. Okay, time for film number 5.
Overloaded socket! Oh, spoil sport. Come on, Matches, come on, go for the matches, darling. Daddy put them there for you. Come on. Oh, Daddy! You put them out of reach. Matches, that was too full and the heat's too high. Don't. Oh, don't. Something's good. Come on. Oh, the heat is too close to the curtain. Behind the door. Look what you've done. Bye-bye, house.
Don't give fire a chance.
Alright, this one goes for horror and it isn't afraid to show it. At first you could be forgiven for almost, smiling and chuckling at this sequence. You have someone voicing a potential fire, and at first the scenarios and dialogue comes across a bit cartoonish, almost a bit slapstick, but as it goes on and on it becomes more and more sinister. And when we see the fire form and it start to taunt this father and also cackle maniacally, that's where the nightmare fuel starts pumping in. What I also like as an added touch is we see this man wake from his nightmare, only to presumably make a similar mistake by lighting up in bed. We hear the ominous laughter of the fire, and the tagline here reinforces the message well. Maybe some still find it laughable, but for me, the more sinister the voice of the fire becomes, the more chills start to trickle down my spine. Alright then, just one more film for today.
Each night as you go to bed, close the door, and that door will hold back almost any fire. It will give you 10 precious minutes to get out. Leave it open, and it will give you no time at all. Fire. Shut it out. you'll never put it out.
This one is very ominous indeed. We see a girl staring at a hulking figure which is revealed to be a tank of all things, and as she runs it slowly moves towards her, and not only does the music build the tension, it's the fact we don't hear the tank's engine at all. It really adds to the atmosphere. We just see it slowly gliding towards her. It's almost like a Dalek. As she gets through the door, a fiery blaze shoots from its barrel and it slams into the door. Now the narrator does go for a very bleak tone with this, and it does work well, but his final line here I find quite bizarre.
Fire. Shut it out. You'll never put it out.
The thing is, he's already commented on shutting the door to stop a fire, and this last little sequence almost seems like an ad-lib, an afterthought, or just plain unnecessary. And you can put fires out, assuming he's referring to flame-throwing tanks, but hey, you know, what can we do, we're only human. But that's about all the fire films we have for today. Overall, these public information films about fire, they're not going to go away. Fire has been there since the beginning, and like electricity in many ways, it is a loyal servant, but a dangerous master. And for many millions, these films at some point or another scared the living daylights out of us. They either went with horror elements to spook and shock us to the core, or just went for the blunt and honest approach, to wake us up to the dangers that we ourselves can cause so easily. So make sure you have your smoke alarms, guard your fireplace, and don't overload your sockets, because you sure don't want to end up like the people in these films. And with that concludes this installment of Video Scaries. I hope you enjoyed basking in the nostalgic clips that once upon a time made us cower and shriek with terror. And what to take away from today? I think it's the following.
Don't give fire a chance.
Thank you for watching. We hope you like, subscribe and share the video around, and we hope to see you next time. If you dare,
I'll be back.